Hey everyone, I'm Alex, and welcome to this Marvel Snap Beginner's Guide on how to win with the starter deck. And in this guide, I'm going to be taking you through everything you need to know about the cards themselves. So you can get a little more familiar with the cards in Marvel Snap. And then what I'm going to do is I'm also going to show you a couple gameplay examples of me winning with the starter deck, despite being extremely late in Pool 3 and facing cards and decks that should be smashing me altogether. Regardless, what we're going to do here, we're going to start with a quick foundation as to what the starter deck is and how these cards interact with each other. First of all, it's worth noting that the starter deck might change, so if it does, I'll record another video. But anyways, the starter deck might change, but this is as it is as of recording. I'll also say that the starter deck sucks. It is not great. You're missing out on quite a bit of synergy. It's a little top heavy. We'll talk about that in a moment, but the earlier cards really don't synergize all that well. And so don't be surprised if you find it a little challenging to pilot here and there, and that's why this video exists. So first of all, you have Hawkeye. Hawkeye is a one-drop tempo card that on reveal, when you play the card their next turn into that specific location, Hawkeye gets 2 additional power, so it becomes a 1/3. When you compare that with someone like Blade, for instance, Blade is a 1/3 that discards a card, right? So if we actually scroll here, so we scroll down, where's Blade? Blade is going to be right here. So Blade's a 1/3, but he's going to discard a card from your hand. And unless you're playing a discard deck, you don't want to do that. And so Hawkeye gives you the benefit of getting that 1/3, which is the strongest the current one drop can be, with the exception of Ebony Maw, who's a totally different beast altogether. But regardless, he's not a beginner card. But yeah, 1/3 is about the strongest you'll get for a one drop. And with Hawkeye, the only limitation is having to play in that specific lane. And then you have Misty Knight. Misty Knight is unique because Misty Knight has no ability. And you might be thinking, Alex, that sucks. Like, why would you play Misty Knight if it has no ability? And I hear your thoughts. It's kind of like the Yeti, right, from Hearthstone. It's like the example of power creep, that the Yeti was a 4/5, and then all of a sudden every other 4/5 in the game did something better, so the Yeti was effectively useless. Not the case in Marvel Snap. There's actually a few examples of this. We're going to knock a couple cards out here. Misty Knight has no ability. Cyclops has no ability. The Thing has no ability, and neither does Abomination. Abomination has no ability either, and guess what? Neither does the Hulk. Now, while these cards are being included in the starter set, simply because it helps you to kind of get more acclimated with the game, you're getting used to locations, you're getting used to the standard gameplay. Having a whole bunch of abilities popping off all the time is going to be super confusing for you. But there is a card out there. If you are thinking, wow, this game's dumb, power creep is going to be very real. No, not the case, and I'll explain why. So we just scrolled through here, and I'm going to show you the card that actually changes everything, and it's Patriot. Because Patriot's a card that has an ongoing aura that your cards with no abilities get 2 additional power. So suddenly the Misty Knights and the Hulks and the Abominations that have no power get benefited from Patriot. And an extension to that is Mystique, who will copy Patriot's effect when played afterwards, and now you have +4 power into each unit with no ability. And you'll notice that these cards are grayed out because I still don't have them. Literally, one of my favorite cards in the game is Patriot, and I've not unlocked them yet. The collection system. It has its problems, but I promise it's actually a pretty neat system, so I'm over it already. But yeah, I don't even have these cards yet, Mystique or Patriot, to make that deck work with cards like the Thing. So that's what's happening on those cards there. Quicksilver, literally one of the worst cards in the game, but basically it starts in your opening hand, and that means that you always have a play on turn 1. The problem with Quicksilver is that it's a very weak ability, so I would hope that this one day might get some minor changes, but that's what Quicksilver does, a very consistent turn 1 play. Medusa is an interesting card because you play in the middle location, you get 2 additional power, and 2 cost 4 is actually pretty decent for a 2 cost. However, there's going to be situations where you literally cannot play in the middle, or the middle location is so disadvantageous, like Jotunheim, that you really don't want to play in the middle at all. So Medusa becomes this 2 power 2 drop that feels terrible everywhere else, where you'd expect a 2 power 3 as a base minimum in terms of the actual power curve. So Medusa does have some challenges, but that's what she does. You want to play her in the middle. Usually your turn 1 play should be Hawkeye into Medusa mid, and then you get the most value. Hawkeye will be a 3, and Medusa will be a 4, so that's 7 power in 2 turns, which is pretty significant, but it has to land in the middle lane. From there, you got Star-Lord. Star-Lord, Guardians of the Galaxies have this ongoing kind of on reveal theme, where basically if your opponent plays a card there, you get additional power. So Star-Lord is a 2/2, which is weak as a standard card, but gains an additional 3 if you're able to guess correctly which lane the opponent is playing in. To put it in perspective, Medusa is a 2/2 if you don't play her in mid, much like Star-Lord's a 2/2 if you don't guess that. However, Medusa, if you play her in mid, is a 2/4. Star-Lord, if you're able to successfully predict your opponent's play, becomes a 2/5. Very, very good. And that brings us to Sentinel. Sentinel's a really interesting card because what Sentinel does is it allows you to basically continuously have additional Sentinels in your hand. And this is a 2/3. I mean, the ability is pretty cool because you constantly have a card to play, because if you're playing him on 2, on 3, if you don't have a 3-drop, well, you can play another Sentinel. That's exciting, I guess. But the nice thing about Sentinel is, in terms of power line, 2/3, decent. It's pretty much standard, but there are some cards that'll synergize with this on reveal ability, just not right now. Then you have the Punisher. Now the Punisher is low-key a very high win rate card. The reason for this is because the ongoing ability of 1 additional power per opposing card of the location both punishes enemies for playing there, but also ramps up the Punisher's strength. And especially in new player games, people might not fully appreciate how much that 1 additional power into a location will kind of turn the tides, and if they base their calculations solely on what they're playing, they may not account for Punisher increasing in strength as well. So you'll sneak out a couple wins with Punisher. A very good card, and you play him in locations that you feel will have a lot of enemy contention. And then you have Cyclops, as we discussed, a 3/4, pretty decent, but no power ability. The Thing, 4/6, pretty standard for 4 power, however, no ability as well. Then you have Iron Man. Now, Iron Man's super interesting. Iron Man has an ongoing ability where you double the power of a location. That's very significant, because if a location has 8 power, it becomes 16. That's a lot. But more importantly, you can set up an Iron Man play where you play Iron Man into a lane knowing that you have the Hulk as the next play, and the Hulk landing in that Iron Man location is not a 6 power 12. He effectively becomes a 6 power 24. So Iron Man's ability to wildly ramp up a lane's presence is not to be understated. It's actually a very good card, one of the best cards in the game, in fact. And you know, to have him start with Iron Man in your deck, pretty awesome. I think you'll be playing this card for many hours as you begin your journey in Marvel Snap, okay? So regardless, that is the starting deck explanation. Let's actually start piloting it so I can give you a good example of how to win with this starter deck. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna play the Quicksilver in here. Why not? Why not play Quicksilver in, as this guy really debates his first play. Quicksilver comes out into the mirror dimension. Let's see what we got into the other locations as well. We're filling our cards with random hands. That's kind of a bit of a cheat, considering well, I mean, now we're not really playing with the starter deck, are we? But you get to see some other cards as well. This is Marvel Snap, right? So basically, we get Triskelion, which completely fills our hands with random cards, and we get additional energy on this turn. So we're gonna be able to take advantage of the do we play Quinjet here? Maybe not. I think we just avoid the Quinjet for a moment here. Mr. Fantastic is good enough. I think we ultimately play the Hulk, and we probably do play Quinjet. Will reduce the cost of Mr. Fantastic, but it's gonna take up a valuable spot on our board. I think Quinjet's fine. It'll get our Mr. Fantastic out a little cheaper, and then we just play Tempo from there. So we'll play Quinjet. Not the most exciting play, but Hulk comes out. Quinjet's going to drop the cost of Mr. Fantastic. He does play Destroyer, destroys his Bucky Barnes, gets a lot of additional value. This guy was blessed. This guy was absolutely blessed with that Destroyer play here. And we're going to get Triskelion again, so we're going to get a whole bunch of random cards. We have Drax. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we are going to play the Thing into the middle location here, just as a pure tempo play. Thing comes out. He does play into the far right location as well. It's Thor. Okay, he's playing Thor. It's not bad. Quinjet's feeling a little weak now. Kind of, you know, regret making that play. But what we're going to do instead, we will play Mr. Fantastic mid. We're going to hold on to Drax for a second, but I think we actually end up playing Cyclops here to kind of counteract the Thor Mjolnir buff here. If he plays Jane Foster, we're probably in trouble. So he does commit additional cards, enter the left side Triskelion, and he plays Cosmo as well. So we are going to just straight up give that lane here. And now we have Cyclops there. So now we have a choice to make how we want to handle this given play. What we probably do is we probably play Drax here. We play Punisher here. It's very unlikely that we're going to be in a situation where he wins this lane, especially being the fact that he played his destroyer already. It's likely that he's going to play a zero cost Mjolnir unless he did not draw, which is possible. But he is going to definitely play a card in this lane. So what we actually do is we play Drax here. Drax is going to give you an additional 4+ power, so it would be a 3/8. We play the Punisher here. Now the thing about this is that Punisher is going to be just a 3/2. So maybe we actually play the Medusa and we play Misty Knight here as well to kind of ramp up this power and additional strength. So a bit of a weird game here, but I think we're going to go for it. We might actually win. He does play here. We do correctly guess the Drax play. He ramps up. Medusa comes up. I don't know what the play is going to be on this side. It's Warpath. Warpath's actually going to get pretty big. It's Sentinel. We actually do ultimately win the game. So Triskelion and the starter deck does close out a victory for us. That was a bit of a weird one. Not exactly the example I was looking for, but regardless, you did see how through some skillful piloting we can take a starter deck and beat a literally top tier destroyer deck where this guy got blessed with Project Pegasus, played his destroyer basically for free, and still ultimately loses to a starter deck. All right, here we go. Starter deck, make me proud. We pull Quicksilver, we got Hawkeye, Medusa, great curve, we're very fortunate. We do have negative zone, which is super problematic for us until we get to the later stages of the game, because, for instance, the Hulk is not going to be too impacted by negative zone, but zooing into that location is going to be really problematic. We play Hawkeye first, because Hawkeye gets the additional benefit of playing the Medusa on top. We just really have to bank on the fact that we don't get destroyed here. Misty Knight gets taken out, not a big deal for us, so Hawkeye comes mid. Hopefully this isn't a completely disastrous mid location. It is the Bifrost, so everything's going to move over the cards anyway. So playing Medusa here, she's going to become a 4 and end up in the right lane. That's not too bad. So again, Medusa procs at the middle location for a +2, and we're going to have 7 power in this location here. He does play Sunspot, which is an absolutely excellent card. Really jealous of that variant as well. The black and white variants are so spicy. I really like them. Savage Land puts 2 Raptors on the location. He is going to win this location because of this Sunspot, so I have to attempt to put some value there. I have to play Cyclops and keep these guys there, or else we basically just lose. So he is going to play into negative zone, assuming that everyone's going to get pulled over. He's going to be really disappointed with what he pulls there. He does pull a Sentinel, which is probably not what he expected when he tried to copy my hand. We are going to play... I think he likely plays here, but I think I'm comfortable playing Sentinel into this location. We probably play Star-Lord into mid as well. It's likely we actually catch him mid, so he's not going to want to play into the negative zone again. I mean, negative zone probably because he's going to move over, right? So maybe we actually play negative zone and catch him moving here and using the Bifrost. So he does move over there. So we lock down this location. We keep Hawkeye and Medusa in mid. We capture the Star-Lord buff on negative zone here, which is exactly what we want to do. He plays Mr. Negative, so I'm going to be expecting him to drop magic shortly, probably in this lane, to then change the dynamic of that lane. In the meantime, I'm going to play Abomination here. He is a 9-drop as a single card. It makes it very hard for them to contest here, and we're going to pass our turn. And he's probably thinking, now that he played Mr. Negative, so again, literally a top-tier deck against us right now. This is going to be magic. It's Jane Foster. Not what I expected at all. And we are actually in a commanding position. He can win this lane because of the Sunspot if he just skips. But what I think we do is we do have the Iron Man. This is a challenging decision here. He can play a lot of cards. He has a big hand, so if he has Devil Dinosaur with the Mr. Negative, this is a very risky play here. But I think what we ultimately do is he has 2 here. He knows he can win negative zone. He skips with Sunspot. It's hard not playing Iron Man in this situation because he can skip his turn, so Sunspot's going to get additional energy, so he has to commit 3 mana, so he can only really play 3 mana here. So what we probably do is we play the Thing here. He drops to a 3, but it's a net 3 gain. We play Sentinel here. We don't use our Iron Man, and we hopefully win the game. He commits all his cards at once. So we'll have to see what he does here. It does not look like he's saving much mana for the Sunspot, but with Mr. Negative, you never really know. It's Bishop into Iron Man mid. Iron Man's going to double the location. He needs it's Mystique, so he gets the double Iron Man play. He is going to be able to gap that middle location there. The question becomes is now, does he win this next one? He does his Iron Heart, and it's... We ultimately do win despite all that. I actually did not think we were going to win there, but we literally just beat a full Mr. Negative deck with our starter deck. Okay, this is absolutely fantastic. I'm sorry I'm getting really excited, But this guy played Mr. Negative, a top tier Pool 3 card, into Mystique, a card I joked about prior not even having myself, copies the Iron Man, plays literally all these top tier cards, and still loses to the starter deck with having a turn 6 literally fill the board. Unbelievable. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about how Marvel Snap is one of those games where anything can happen. And I mean, I just beat him with the starter deck and I'm late in Pool 3. So if I can do it, you can do it too. Anyways, guys, I really hope you should check out this next video here because I think it's truly fantastic, especially if you're new to Marvel Snap. These beginner guides, I mean, I think they really help. And once you start getting the hang of Marvel Snap, you are in for a treat because this game is truly phenomenal.